It was one of those days that felt like a heavy blanket, suffocating and dull. I sat on the edge of my bed, my fingers mindlessly tracing the worn fabric of my duvet. The clock ticked loudly, each second stretching into an eternity as I waited for Jackson, the internet technician. His visit was supposed to be just another mundane interruption in my routine, but the thought of him made my heart race in a way I hadn't felt in years. When the doorbell rang, I jumped as if I had just been shocked. I opened the door to find Jackson standing there, a charming smile lighting up his face. The air shifted instantly, buzzing with an energy that was both exciting and terrifying. "Hey there. Ready for some cable magic," he said, walking into my room with a confidence that knocked the breath out of me. "Sure, I guess," I replied, trying to sound casual, but my voice wavered slightly. I watched as he bent down to inspect the mess of cables by my desk. His hands worked deftly, but it was his presence that made my heart flutter. "You know, I've never really understood how all this stuff works," I admitted, gesturing to the tangled wires. "Easy. It's just like life. Sometimes you have to untangle the mess to see the beauty underneath," he joked, glancing up at me with those deep-set eyes that seemed to see right through me. I laughed, but inside, I felt a strange mix of intrigue and fear. Why was I feeling this way? I was married, after all. As we talked, our conversation flowed effortlessly. We shared stories about our lives, and I found myself captivated by his easy charm. "So, what do you do when you're not fixing people's internet problems?" I asked, curious to know more about him. "I like to explore new places, try new foods. I believe life is too short to stick to the same routine," he replied, a glimmer of adventure in his eyes. I couldn't help but wonder what it would be like to share that kind of life with him. But then guilt washed over me like a cold wave. I glanced at the family photo on the wall, smiling faces frozen in time. Ethan. My husband. The man I had promised to love and cherish. Did I really want to start feeling this way about another man? "That sounds amazing," I said, my voice tight. "I've just been busy with life, I guess." "Busy is overrated," Jackson said, meeting my gaze. "You should make time for yourself. You deserve that." His words hung in the air, echoing louder than the ticking clock. Did I really deserve that? The tension between us was palpable as he reached for a particularly stubborn cable. Our hands brushed together, and a jolt of electricity shot through me. I wanted to pull away, but I found myself lingering, caught in the moment. My heart raced as I pulled back slightly, searching his eyes for a reaction. Did he feel it too? "Sorry about that," he said, a hint of a smile playing on his lips, but I could see the flicker of something deeper in his gaze. My breath caught in my throat. Was this just a harmless moment, or was it the beginning of something I couldn't control? What was I doing? I should be thinking about Ethan, about my marriage, but every thought was drowned out by the thrill of being near Jackson. "It's okay," I whispered, unsure if I meant it. "I guess. I just haven't felt this kind of connection in a while." The confession slipped out before I could stop it, and I felt a wave of vulnerability wash over me. Jackson's smile faded slightly, replaced by a look of understanding. "Sometimes, we all need a little light in our lives," he said softly. It was then that I realized this was more than just a simple visit. Something had shifted within me, and the tangled wires of my heart felt just as complicated as the mess on my desk. Could I allow myself to feel this way? Could I risk everything for a spark that might just be a fleeting moment? As Jackson continued to work, I felt the weight of my choices pressing down on me, and I knew that this day was just the beginning of a journey I hadn't anticipated. Days passed, and with each visit from Jackson, I felt a shift in my world. The monotony that had once suffocated me began to lighten, replaced by a sense of anticipation that tinged my mornings with a hint of excitement. I found myself looking forward to his arrival more than I would care to admit. Each time he stepped through my door, it felt like a breath of fresh air, sweeping away the dust of my stagnant life. Our conversations evolved from simple banter to something more charged, filled with playful teasing and shared smiles that lingered longer than they should. I could feel the chemistry between us growing stronger, like a spark ready to ignite. "So, have you figured out any new ways to untangle those cables?" I teased during one of his visits, unable to hide the smile that crept across my face. "Only if you promise to help me next time," he replied, his eyes glinting mischievously. "I might need a partner in crime to navigate this mess." My heart fluttered at the thought, and I quickly dismissed it, shaking my head. "Maybe next time," I said, my voice light, but my mind was swirling with possibilities. Yet, in the quiet moments after he left, I found myself grappling with my thoughts. I remembered the early days of my relationship with Ethan, days filled with laughter and dreams. We had been so in love, so full of life. But now, those memories felt like echoes of a distant past, drowned out by the reality of routine. I closed my eyes and let the memories wash over me. "Do you remember our first trip together?" I asked Ethan one evening, hoping to spark some connection. He looked up from his phone, a distracted smile crossing his face. "Yeah, that was fun," he replied, before returning to his screen. The warmth in my chest faded, replaced by a familiar ache. It was in moments like this that I realized how far we had drifted apart. Jackson had awakened something in me that I thought was long gone. Each stolen glance, each lingering touch, stirred a desire I hadn't felt in years. The guilt was overwhelming. "What am I doing?" I whispered to myself after one particularly charged interaction with Jackson. I could feel my heart racing at the memory of his hand brushing against mine while we reached for the same cable. It was just a fleeting moment, but it left me breathless. "Sorry about that," he said, his voice low, almost playful, but the intensity in his gaze told me it was more than just an accident. I had felt it too, that electric connection lingering in the air. I could see his eyes searching mine, and for a moment, the world outside faded away. "It's fine," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. But inside, I was questioning everything. Was I really falling for someone else? Was this all just a reaction to my dull marriage? I had never considered myself the type to stray, yet here I was, lost in a whirlwind of emotions. I spent restless nights tossing and turning, thinking about Jackson and the thrill he brought into my life. But guilt always crept in, reminding me of Ethan and the life we had built together. I wanted to be honest with myself, to acknowledge my feelings for Jackson without the weight of betrayal hanging over me. Maybe I just need to talk to Ethan, I thought, but the thought of bringing this up filled me with dread. As I sat in my living room, staring at the flickering light of the television, I realized I was at a crossroads. Jackson had become a breath of fresh air in my life, but I was still tethered to my marriage. What do I really want? I asked myself, feeling the burden of my choices pressing down on me. It was clear that my feelings for Jackson were more than just a passing crush. I craved connection, excitement, and above all, I craved to feel alive again. As I waited for Jackson's next visit, I knew I had to confront the reality of my situation. I had to decide what this spark meant for my life and what I was willing to risk for something that felt so profoundly real. The night sky was heavy with clouds, and rain began to patter softly against my window. As I sat on the couch, a mix of emotions churned within me. I glanced at my phone, my heart racing at the thought of Jackson's invitation for a glass of wine. It was tempting, but I couldn't shake the feeling that it was a dangerous step to take. Ethan was home, lost in his own world, scrolling through his phone. I watched him from the corner of my eye, feeling a wave of sadness wash over me. "Hey, do you want to watch a movie later?" I asked, trying to find a way to connect. "Sure, just let me finish this," he replied without looking up, his voice distant. I felt the familiar ache of loneliness settle in my chest. It was moments like this that made me realize how disconnected we had become. As the rain fell harder, I texted Jackson, my fingers trembling. "I'd love to come over for that wine." The message felt like a confession, laying my heart bare. I pressed send, and immediately, a mix of excitement and dread surged through me. When Jackson replied almost instantly, saying, "Great. I'll be waiting," I felt a thrill that I hadn't experienced in years. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm inside me. "What are you doing?" I whispered to myself, but I already knew the answer. I was seeking something I felt was missing in my life. Arriving at Jackson's home, the air was thick with anticipation. The warm light from his living room spilled out into the night, and I hesitated at the door, my heart pounding. I could turn back, but I didn't want to. I knocked gently, and Jackson opened the door with that same charming smile that made my heart skip a beat. "Hey. I'm glad you came," he said, stepping aside to let me in. The moment I crossed the threshold, I felt a rush of warmth envelop me. "Thanks for inviting me," I replied, trying to sound casual, though my voice trembled slightly. We settled on the couch, the wine glasses clinking softly as he poured. "So, what's been going on in your world?" he asked, his gaze steady and sincere. "I've just been, living the same old routine," I admitted, feeling a weight lift as I spoke. "I just feel stuck sometimes." Jackson nodded, his expression thoughtful. "I get that. Life can feel like a loop sometimes. But you deserve to feel happy and excited." His words struck a chord deep within me. I took a sip of my wine, letting the warmth spread through me, emboldening my thoughts. I used to be so full of life, but now I don't even recognize myself. "Maybe it's time to find that person again," he suggested gently, leaning in closer. The distance between us felt electric, and I could feel my heart racing. "I don't know how," I confessed, my voice barely above a whisper. "I've built this life, but it feels like I'm losing myself in it." "Sometimes, we have to take risks to find what we truly want," he replied, his eyes locked onto mine. I felt a surge of courage as I met his gaze, the connection between us undeniable. As the night wore on, our conversation flowed freely, each shared story bringing us closer. I could feel the walls I had built around my heart beginning to crumble. "I wish I could just escape for a while," I said, my voice tinged with longing. "Then let's escape, even if it's just for tonight," he replied, his voice low and inviting. The air was thick with tension, and I felt a rush of heat. In that moment, time seemed to stand still. We leaned in, and I could feel the warmth radiating from him, drawing me closer. Our lips almost touched, and I froze, caught between desire and reality. "Wait," I said, pulling back suddenly, my breath quickening. "What am I doing?" Jackson looked at me, his eyes filled with understanding. "I'm not trying to rush you. I feel something special between us." "I do too," I admitted, the truth spilling out before I could stop it. "But I'm married, Jackson. I can't just ignore that." He nodded, and the moment felt heavy with unspoken words. "I know. But you deserve to feel alive, to explore what's in your heart." The reality of my situation crashed down on me like a wave. I was at a crossroads, standing on the edge of a decision that could change everything. As I looked into Jackson's eyes, I realized this night was not just about wine and conversation, it was about confronting the deepest parts of myself and the choices I had to make. The moment I stepped out of Jackson's house, the cool night air hit me like a splash of cold water. I stood on the sidewalk, my heart racing, a whirlwind of emotions crashing over me. It was as if I had just crossed a threshold into a new reality, one that was both thrilling and terrifying. I could still feel the warmth of his gaze, the way he had leaned in, so close that I could almost taste the possibility of something more. As I walked home, the rain began to fall again, drenching the pavement and soaking through my thoughts. With each step, I replayed the night in my mind. Did I really just almost kiss Jackson? I was filled with excitement, but guilt gnawed at my insides like a hungry animal. I could see Ethan's face in my mind, his distracted smile as he scrolled through his phone, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing in my heart. When I opened the door to my house, the familiar scent of our living space wrapped around me like a cold blanket. Ethan was still on the couch, and I felt a pang of sadness. I wanted to reach out to him, to share my feelings, but the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I forced a smile. "Hey, I'm back." "Hey," he replied, barely looking up. "Did you have a nice time?" "Yeah, it was fine," I said, my voice lacking the enthusiasm I tried to project. I could feel the weight of my secret pressing down on me. I needed to talk to him, but how could I explain the chaos in my heart? As the minutes passed, the silence between us grew heavier. I sat down beside him, my mind racing. "Ethan," I began, hesitating. "Can we talk?" "Sure," he said, finally putting down his phone. "What's up?" I took a deep breath, searching for the right words. "I've been feeling lost lately. Like I'm stuck in a loop, doing the same things over and over." He frowned. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I feel like we're not really connecting anymore. It's like we're just here, coexisting." Ethan shifted in his seat, his expression turning defensive. "What are you trying to say? Are you not happy with me?" "No, it's not that," I rushed to explain. "I just think we need to find a way to reconnect. It feels like we've drifted apart." He looked away, and I could see the hurt in his eyes. "You know I'm trying my best, right? Work has been stressful." "I know, and I appreciate that," I said, my heart aching. "But it feels like we're missing something important. I don't want to lose you, but I also don't want to keep pretending everything is okay." A heavy silence fell between us. I could see the tension building in his shoulders, and I fought the urge to reach out and comfort him. Instead, I steeled myself. "Ethan, I've been talking to someone else." His head snapped up, and his eyes widened. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I've been spending time with Jackson, the internet technician. He's been kind to me, and I can't help but feel a connection." The words spilled out before I could stop them, each one cutting deeper into the fragile fabric of our relationship. Ethan's expression turned from shock to anger. "So, you're telling me you've developed feelings for someone else? Just like that?" "It's not that simple," I protested, feeling tears well up in my eyes. "I didn't plan for this to happen, but I can't ignore it either. I feel alive when I'm with him, and I haven't felt that way in a long time." Ethan's face fell, and I saw the hurt etched into his features. "I thought we were happy." "I thought you were happy." "I want to be," I said softly. "But I'm struggling to find my way back to that happiness. I need help, and I need to know if we can work on this together." He ran a hand through his hair, frustration simmering just beneath the surface. "This isn't fair to me, to put this on me now. I know it's not fair. But I can't keep pretending that everything is okay when it's not," I replied, my voice trembling. As I looked at him, I realized this conversation was only the beginning. I was at a crossroads, facing a decision that could change everything. Should I pursue what I felt for Jackson, or should I try to mend the cracks in my marriage with Ethan? I knew I needed to talk to someone, to seek advice and clarity. I picked up my phone, scrolling through my contacts until I found my best friend, Sarah. She would understand. I needed her perspective as I weighed the implications of my choices. "Hey, can we talk?" I typed, my heart pounding with uncertainty. I pressed send, and the weight of my decision pressed down on me, but I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe this was the first step towards finding my truth. I stood in front of the mirror the next morning, staring at my reflection as I tried to calm my racing heart. Today was the day I would meet Jackson again. A mix of excitement and fear swirled inside me. My thoughts kept bouncing between the thrill of seeing him and the guilt that clung to me like a shadow. Could I really go through with this? After getting ready, I texted Jackson. "Hey. Are we still on for today?" My fingers hovered over the screen, my heart pounding as I hit send. A few moments later, my phone buzzed with his reply. "Absolutely. Can't wait to see you. How about the park at 3? I smiled at his enthusiasm, feeling a warmth spread through me. Sounds perfect. See you then? I typed back, then put my phone down, trying to steady my breath. As the clock ticked closer to 3, I found myself pacing the living room. Ethan was in the kitchen, making a snack, completely unaware of the turmoil brewing inside me. I wanted to tell him so many things, but the words felt trapped in my throat. Hey, you okay? Ethan asked, stepping into the room with a half-eaten apple in hand. Yeah, I'm fine, I replied too quickly, and I could see the concern in his eyes. Just checking. You seem a bit off, he said, his brow furrowing. I've got a lot on my mind, I admitted, forcing a smile. Want to talk about it? I shook my head, not ready to dive into the chaos of my emotions. Not right now. I'll be fine. With a last glance at Ethan, I stepped outside, taking a deep breath of fresh air. The sun shone brightly, but my heart felt heavy as I made my way to the park. Each step felt like I was walking towards something both wonderful and dangerous. When I arrived, I saw Jackson sitting on a bench, his gaze scanning the park until it landed on me. His face broke into a wide smile, and my heart fluttered. Hey there, he called, standing up to greet me. Hi. I replied, feeling my cheeks heat up. We sat down together, and the atmosphere felt charged, as if the air around us crackled with unspoken words. I'm really glad you came, he said, his eyes sparkling with warmth. I am too, I admitted, a nervous laugh escaping my lips. I've been looking forward to this. So, tell me about yourself, he prompted, leaning in a little closer. I took a breath, feeling the weight of my past pressing down but wanting to break free. Well, I work from home, and I love reading. But lately, I've felt lost. Lost, he echoed, his expression turning serious. In what way? I hesitated, the truth hovering just beneath the surface. Just, in my life. Things have been feeling routine, and I miss feeling excited about something. Jackson nodded, understanding in his eyes. I get that. Life can get pretty predictable. But what excites you? I looked at him, my heart racing at the question. Honestly? Just being here with you right now feels exciting. He smiled, and the air between us shifted. I'm glad to hear that. I feel the same way. As we talked and shared stories, I felt a connection growing deeper. Laughter filled the space as we exchanged silly anecdotes, and for a while, I forgot about everything else. But then, the weight of my guilt returned. Jackson, I started, my voice shaking slightly. I need to be honest with you. He looked at me, concern etched on his face. What's on your mind? I'm married. I didn't want to hide that from you. His expression softened. I appreciate your honesty. How do you feel about your marriage? I swallowed hard, the truth spilling out. I feel trapped. I love Ethan, but I'm not happy. Meeting you has made me realize how much I crave more connection, more excitement. Jackson reached for my hand, his touch sending a jolt of electricity through me. You deserve to be happy, he said softly. Tears pricked at my eyes as I felt the weight of his words. But I also feel guilty. I don't want to hurt Ethan. Sometimes, change is necessary. It doesn't mean you don't care about him, Jackson reassured me. In that moment, I realized how much I craved validation and affection. I wanted to reclaim the parts of myself I lost along the way. You're right, I said, my voice steadier now. I need to figure out what I truly want. Just then, Jackson leaned closer, his voice barely above a whisper. I care about you. I want to explore this connection we have. My heart raced at his words, and I felt torn. The thrill of a new life with him was intoxicating, yet the comfort of familiarity with Ethan still held me back. I took a deep breath, knowing I was at a crossroads. I need time to think, I finally said, my voice trembling. Jackson nodded, his expression understanding. Take all the time you need. I'll be here. As we sat together, I felt a sense of hope mixed with uncertainty. I was on the brink of something new, and for the first time in a long time, I felt alive. As I sat there on the park bench with Jackson, my heart raced. I could feel the weight of my choices pressing down on me, and the thrill of our connection flickered like a flame in the back of my mind. But deep down, I knew that today had to be different. I had to confront the truth that I had been avoiding. "Jackson," I started, my voice trembling slightly. "I need to talk to you about something important." His expression turned serious, and he leaned in closer. "What is it?" "You can tell me." I took a deep breath, gathering my thoughts. "I've been thinking a lot about my life and my marriage. I can't keep pretending that everything is okay when it's not." He nodded, encouraging me to continue. "I'm listening. I love Ethan, but I feel trapped. Meeting you has opened my eyes to how much I want more excitement, more passion, more everything." I paused, searching his face for understanding. "But I also don't want to hurt him. He deserves better." Jackson's gaze softened, and he reached for my hand again. "It's okay to want more for yourself. You deserve to be happy, and sometimes that means making tough choices." Tears pricked at my eyes. "I know, but it's so hard. I've built a life with Ethan. We have history. I don't want to throw it all away." "History doesn't mean you have to stay in a situation that makes you unhappy," he replied gently. "What do you really want?" I looked deep into his eyes, feeling the connection we shared. "I want to feel alive again. I want to embrace who I am. Being with you has made me realize that I can't keep living for someone else." A silence fell between us, heavy with the weight of my confession. I could see the understanding in Jackson's eyes, but I also felt the pull of my past holding me back. "What if I choose to leave Ethan?" I whispered, the words feeling foreign on my tongue. "What if it all goes wrong?" "Then you'll know you tried to follow your heart," Jackson said, his voice steady. "You won't regret taking the chance to find your happiness." I nodded, feeling the truth in his words. My heart ached at the thought of hurting Ethan, but I couldn't ignore the longing that had been growing inside me. "I need to do this for myself," I finally admitted, my voice stronger now. Jackson smiled softly, relief washing over his face. "I'll support you, whatever you decide. Just know that you're not alone in this." Taking a deep breath, I felt a sense of clarity I hadn't experienced in a long time. I need to talk to Ethan. It's time to face the music and be honest about how I feel. "Are you ready for that?" Jackson asked, his eyes searching mine. I hesitated for a moment, but then I felt a surge of determination. "I have to be. I can't keep living in this limbo. I owe it to both of us." Jackson squeezed my hand, grounding me in that moment. "You're incredibly brave for facing this. No matter what happens, you're taking a step toward your truth." As I sat there, I felt a mix of fear and freedom. I was finally ready to take control of my life. "Thank you for being here for me," I said, my voice filled with gratitude. "I don't know what I would do without your support." "Always," he replied softly, his gaze unwavering. "You're worth it." With that, I stood up, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders. I looked at Jackson, knowing that whatever happened next, I was taking a step toward my own happiness. "I'm going to talk to Ethan." "I'll keep you posted," I said, feeling a ripple of excitement and fear. "Take your time." "I'll be here," he replied, his smile reassuring. As I walked away from the park, my heart felt lighter, and I was ready to embrace the unknown. I was finally ready to discover who I was and what I truly wanted. I felt a sense of hope blooming inside me, and for the first time in a long time, I believed I could find my way to happiness. Share this story if you believe that taking control of your happiness is worth the struggle. Leave a comment about a time when you faced a tough decision in your life, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories like this one. Your journey matters, let's explore it together.